Hello Internet, this is LordMaddog and I'm coming at you with another SOULSLIKE project tutorial. And this one's going to be a little bit longer than normal because this is going to be about the conversations. And because there's a lot of things you can do and not do with it, so I'm not going to be making a new conversation on screen. I'm just going to go over the basics of what each one does. Before that though, there's a couple things I have to kind of note and correct. For a bullet heaven component, I fixed it. It will no longer have an infinite loop. I've set it up so if it keeps on if you do not have enough stats, it'll automatically reselect and get a different type of stat set that can actually put in there for you don't have to worry about it crashing during the infinite loop. And when adding a item for your build, see, as you've seen, I had added a hexagon, new build type. This build type, if you want it to be able to go up and down, you need to add it right here in this build cycle right here, and I've added hexagon to that. Now let's jump right into the conversation component. First thing we're going to have is a conversation NPC. So conversation NPC can be found right here in my blueprint actors world. NPC conversation. You'll just drag that sucker right on into the world, and then you'll be changing its settings inside the world once it's placed. Now, if you want to create your own custom NPC, it's pretty easy. All you got to do is copy these things in here to interact keys and the interact overlapping box. So if you want to add it to an existing moving NPC that walks around or anything like that, it's pretty much straightforward. You add a conversation component and an interact component, and then you set it up here. This is a good example. You set up the conversation component. Each one of these things does what it does, whatever you do. Here, this is for whether or not you want the NPC to be able to look at the player. And then you have your starting animation if you want to have a starting animation. And then the interact key, obviously, that's your interacting component will actually start your conversation, your chat. And this is when the player gets inside the moving area of within the range of actually interacting, this little interactive box right here. Okay, so now we'll drag that character into the world, and we'll talk about the settings that needs to have changed in it. Most of the time, you'll just be driving the character into the world. Okay, when you're actually selecting the blueprint itself in the world, the only two things you need. That part was tell it whether or not to use the starting animation, and you see here for this character I have starting animation. So basically, it's an infinite loop starting animation of him sitting on the chimney. See there, he is now sitting on the chimney. It's all good. All right, let's go to outliner again, details. Next thing we need to jump down here is the conversation component. We only need to change three things here, okay? It's the actual actor dialogue tag. As you see here, I have character.npc.kong, so that's the character net tag. You can create your own new tag. If you know anything about tags, it's really easy. Tags are great. Anyway, and then you want to use the conversation database that you're using, data asset. And you probably most likely will use your master database, but you can create your own one if you want to or whatnot. And so you might end up having too many conversations in one data asset. So I can change that. And then the max stage that current NPC can go to. Now later on you'll have things that can change the max stage. So you could have an NPC that can only talk to a certain point, and then it's in certain time in the game, whether or not time is storyline, you can increase the max stage of that, or you can have another NPC that does it or a quest that does it. This is what this max stage is for. And there's only three things you have to change in here. And then we just go ahead and we actually going to open up the conversation that we have it connected to, and that's where we'll actually start doing the conversation thing. I'm going to have to stop the game while doing this because you can't do anything if you don't. All right, so entry point. You type entry point right here. Your entry point is your entry tag, the one you put inside the character just a few seconds ago. So you put your entry tag in there, and then we'll go on and actually start having our conversation. So to note that having a conversation that according to how you connect these up is how they're going to be in sequence. So let's say I had like 5 or 6 of these. If I started here, this would be first. Oops, if I connect it here, this will be the first one it tries to go to. And this will be the second one it tries to go to. And this will be the third one it tries to go to. So it does not go left to right or right to left like some of the other systems things does. You're going to want to make sure that you try to make it easy for yourself to know which ways you connected them up. Okay, so make sure that you connect them up in the order you want them used. Then after you have that all, understand that, we're going to talk about actually going into the conversation itself. See, here I have a stage select. You don't actually have to have these, but I find that they're actually very helpful. Like I said, stages. The first thing is it'll check if that NPC is currently in what stage it's on. It'll reference it to the character, and if it's not that stage, it'll go to the next one in line and next one in line as according to you connected them. So I'm going to connect it in line like this. There. So if this was stage 0 and this is stage 1, what 0 is default. So it'd say the NPC was no longer on stage 0. It would try stage 1, but it wasn't on stage 1. It would try the next stage down the line. So and if there is no other stage, if there is no stage that's currently connected, then nothing's going to happen at all. So you want to make sure when you're setting things up, you don't end up accidentally doing that. Well, actually, you probably do, because you don't want the NPCs constantly talking. If some of the NPCs, you can talk to them a couple times and then they just won't talk anymore. I like that when games do that, and so you don't have to keep on trying to see if they can talk more. All right. Now, after that is the actual conversation itself. This is really easy. Your dialogue goes right here. Your participant tag, you're going to always have to have your participant tag, and you're pretty much always going to be the one your character is interacting with. And you can trick the system later on to have the character say something, even though the character is not the one that's actually being interacted with. That's totally fine. I did that in Merchant NPC. The player here will talk to the player. I think it's right here. Yes, see the here chat up and the hero name hero. So the hero's talking, even though the merchant is still the one actually supposedly talking, and that's okay, because we can actually change voice files and whatnot in the next master side effect. So down to the next one. These here input actions. These are for like tutorial objects. You fool around with them to see exactly what they want. Basically, it's the things that'll show up when you're having tutorials on the bottom. So you're like instructions, like press such and such to continue. So in this case, I have advanced dialogue, advanced input action. So it's telling me that I need to press my dialogue, advanced input action to continue. That's what this was doing. That's what these are for. Now, fade is how whether or not you want this conversation to fade on its own over time without the player hitting exit. So if you do, then that means that the conversation will exit and it'll completely disappear from the player, even if he does not hit advance or continue on his controls. Now, display duration, this is according to your fade. If you have fade selected, that's how long it takes to fade. Continue talk means that it will continue down to the next conversation down like this. So like that. Okay, that's what continue talk, and the player will have to hit the advanced dialogue input key. See advanced dialogue, and then this one's telling the player to close the dialogue. All right. You don't necessarily have to do that. See, I have this one actually auto fading, but I also tell the player that he can close the dialogue by having the dialogue close key. So that's with this, and that's all of these different things here. Now we're going to talk about master side effect. Master side effect is whether or not you have to have the participant tag. This one actually does matter for the participant tag if you want to have the animations. So let's say I want to have my character do an animation. Here it is, and I have the master side effect tag. I have the character player as my participant tag, and he's the one playing the montage, and he is also the one that's playing the sound. So you can have an animation and the dialogue to go with it. Now, it doesn't have to match up. It depends on your style of your game. If you have your montage, since you have your montage, you can have lip sync if you want, and you can have the sound that goes with it right away. Now, duration is how long the camera will have zoom in on the character. If you have a duration under 1, then the camera will not zoom in on the character. So up to you whether or not you want to have the camera zoom in on the character. Now, that's the basics of all conversation, but there's a couple different side effects that we can have. I mean, it's really straightforward, and each one. So on this one, you see here, I have this one actually advances a stage, so it goes from stage 1 to stage 0. It'll just increment to stage. If you want to have it going to multiple stages, whatnot, it's up to you. It's really easy to also have a blueprint that will advance the stage. You just have, like this one, have an example blueprint. Oops. this thing here. This initiates the conversation, and it has the reference to the NPC that's going to advance the conversation. Has a reference to the actor that it's going to initiate its conversation on this one. But it could work the same for advancing things. Or you could have a storyline moment that will have a list of all the NPCs and you just send a message to them to advance their conversation. So get conversation stage or advanced conversation stage. So you get all actor reference and you get your character component, and then you advance. So advance. I think it's just advanced conversation, and this is how many times you want to advance. One, because you can advance it more than one stage if you so desire. Okay. Now let's talk about the other side effects, like I was going to go do before we do that. Let's see some of these here. I'm just going to drag them out here and add side effects. We've got add quest side effect. We've got advanced other max conversation. We've got side effect and camera zoom. So this is basically the same as the master side effect, camera zoom. It's just all it does is camera zoom. It doesn't have the other animations with it. Okay, play animation and play voice. Those also the same as master side effect, but they're by themselves, just in case you want to have that way. And then you have also give item side effect. And I'm going to go over each one of these exactly what they do here. So add quest. This one's going to be a little bit more advanced because advanced its name. So you're going to have your participant name and the quest name. The quest name, it will be tag names. We'll go over quest later. We're not going to go into that now, but it's pretty simple. Just the conversation and the text, and these will line up to the quest that you have. All right. Now, add another side effect or advance other conversation. So this is going to be your current participant tag and the other participant tag. So let's say I have my merchant advancing the other guy's conversation. See if I can find that. I do have that here. Master the black hole conversation. Let's see here. Here it is. Yes, here it is. This is it. This will master side effect. Okay, side effect, advance other person's conversation. So here it is. I've used it. See, the tag we're using is the merchant, and the other tag we're using is the NPC Kong, and we're advancing his new stage to 7. This is actually setting his stage to 7. So we're not advancing it by 7 or anything. We're actually setting it to stage 7. All right. Now, I do believe there's a couple more side effects here. Give item right here. Let's go ahead and click on that. This is the item that you want to have the participant tag will hand to him. This is the rarity chance of that. If you want to make sure it's a certain rarity, max value, base value. So this is from, I think it's 1 to 100. You'll have to fiddle around with this to see exactly which one, what numbers give you what rarity. So basically, if you wanted to have any effect of giving the current item that you're giving, let's say I wanted to give a helmet, and I wanted to get that. I think it's about 57. I'd have to look again, and max value of 57. So I think that would result in a blue, almost guaranteed a blue item every time. I think that around there. You'd have to figure it out to mess with it to basically try to figure out exactly what value the rarity value it is. Now that's going to change according to if you change the default rarity value on how rarity works for the item, then you're going to have to take account for that yourself, because every single item has a chance of its rarity changing. So you have to take account of that, and I probably will be changing those rarities so these numbers, well, when I make my game, won't be valid, and I'll have to do my own testing. Now, that's the end of the actual side effects. You see here? Yeah, I think so. Yep. We do have requirements. So, conversation NPC requirement, and is quest complete requirement. So this basically conversation stage. This one up here is not necessary. This is already going to be the NPC that you need to be talking to be working. So this is not even a necessary one. This is one I was first trying out. Is quest complete. We're going to get the quest that we need. Participant tag and quest name. So there we are. The same thing with the quest. We'll talk about quest later on. Now, I did forget the one side effect here that is interact. Where was that at? Here, side effect world interact. Now, this one is going to be a little bit different for every single NPC. This is I'll go show you how I used it in the merchant one. We'll open up his blueprint and we'll look at that. So here is the event interact. Where is that at? Event remote interact. No. Open close stop. Here it is. Event conversation world interact. Okay. So in this case, the NPC only has one world interact. It doesn't have an index number. So it's only one, and that is to open up his buy from him. Now, let's say you have multiple interactions that the player can actually have world interact on a thing. So you would have the index, and you would have the index equal to, and then you'd have your select value. So like we would get a select. We'd bring our, is it a select or a switch? I think maybe a switch. A switch on it. Yep, that's a switch on it. We would have add pin. Instead of the default, we have 0, 1, 3. So you can have as many of these as you want, and then you can send the information through the conversation like that. So this one is a side effect of index of 0, but let's say I have a world side effect of index of 100 or 10 or maybe just 2, and that would then be inside the blueprint of the NPC you're currently talking to. It would send this information to him, and you would have to go from there and make out your own little blueprint for it. Yeah. And actually, I do think that is pretty much everything to do with conversation. It's not as long and complicated as I thought. Hopefully I made it very easy for you to understand. The next episode we'll go about talking about quest and how to interact with them with the player and the NPC, but it's issued there. The quest ones are just as simple as add side effect, add quest right here. We have it's the NPC tag and put pants on. So that's the quest name, put pants on. And then the next one, is quest complete, put pants on. So it's really easy for the conversation, and we'll be talking about that next time. If you have any questions about how to use the system, or I did not cover something, or you want another tutorial for something, go ahead and do not hesitate to ask in the comments. LordMaddog signing off.